last version do a little bit more. So I'm going to add to my HTML another div down here underneath this section. No, I'll do it inside the section, but underneath the other div that everything else is in. I'm making it a div instead of a paragraph because divs can contain other block level elements. So elements, ignoring some complications, can basically be categorized as inline or block. Inline elements are things like emphasis, italics, stuff like that, links, etc. Blocks are things like paragraphs, things that generally go on a line by themselves. Div is the generic block element. Span is the generic inline element. And paragraphs cannot contain other block level elements inside of them. It doesn't make sense to have a paragraph inside a paragraph. So if you want block within block, you need to use something like a div. There are others too, like section, obviously, and main. But they're all kind of based on div. So I'm going to make a div with a class or an ID, doesn't really matter, of details. I suppose it makes sense to make it an ID. Div with an ID of details and nothing else in it. Then let's do just enough to put the person name inside that div. So our handle submit right now messes with the H1, which is cool and all, but that's not where we're going with this. That was just for show. So let's grab that details div off the page and add it to that. So let's say, I'm going to put it up here, const details equals document.querySelector hash details to do it. Now I've got my name, and I just want to add it to that. How shall I add it to that? I have a variable named details. I have a variable named name. How should I add the name to the details div? How should I do it? How should I do it? Andrew Rothwell. I want to add this to this. This is my div. This is my string. Oh man, getting fancy. Inner HTML. And just set it to name. Refresh the page. Let's say Rothwell. Oh man. Yep. So we didn't do inner HTML yesterday, but what's the difference between that and text content? Well, we could do stuff like this. Haha, very nice. If this were text content, I would end up with that, right? So inner HTML can actually take HTML as part of the string. Yes, ma'am. Gabby, out for justice. Wow. Yes, the same word. Very good. Oh man, this is life altering already. Let's go ahead and commit something. But let's do it in my own copy of this thing. I'm just going to add all my changes. Git add dot, And what am I doing? All those changes that I've made since my previous commit are in the working directory. If I want to commit them, first I must add them so that Git is tracking those changes. Then I commit them to make them permanent and stick a label on them. And when I commit, I give it a message. Add a name to details. So what's happening to all these commits? If I hit git log, git space log, I can see them. I referred to sticking a label on them as something that happens when you commit. So here's that label, this big long hex number. Add a name to details. So each commit has the changes that were made in that commit, who did it, when they did it, etc., along with your message. So we see all the previous changes. And if I really, really wanted to, I could go back to one of them. Hit Q to get out of git log, by the way. So we were running a little shorter on time in the morning than in the afternoon yesterday. So I didn't have time to talk about Git in quite as much detail as I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead, Lex.
I was just wondering, I forgot how to switch over from, like yesterday in the morning we did, you switched over to the people factory.
Like finding the directory?
Yeah.
It does depend on where you put it. Let's see.
I mean, I know where.
So in like CD, the CD command.
Yeah.
So CD space and wherever it is. Do you remember where it is?